When we look at corruption, I find it very useful to look at the two different sides of corruption that you often find in all countries really around the world. One is first the supply side, which is generally one you find more in the private sector and the commercial sector. So supply side corruption, an example would be that me as an investor in a particular country, I need to pay so much extra, or I need to, like in nepotism or cronyism, provide jobs through this investment that I'm making beyond what I would otherwise do in order to have the opportunity to make the investment, build the building, exploit or extract the natural resources, whatever. It's almost the cost of doing business for many of these companies in parts of the world. This is supply side corruption, as opposed to demand side corruption, which is generally the other side of this that you often see then on the enabling perspective that government officials will have in, for example, working with the private sector. So the same example that I used of the business, the investor going into a particular country, the cost of doing business, that extra that he has to pay, the company has to pay in order to make the investment on the demand side, that of course is coming from the government, or coming from, in most cases, government officials at some level, at a more local level, at a provincial level perhaps, or even at the national level. And that is the resources that they demand, often quite unofficially, obviously, and quite behind the scenes, under the table even, in order for you to do what it is that you want to do. In many countries, in many situations, on the demand side, this can also be simply the cost of getting business done for a citizen in that country. In many countries, the idea of bakshish, which is a term used in South Asia often, bakshish is simply a little extra or tea money for you, the official, to stamp that piece of paper or this piece of paper or whatever. It's just little extra beyond what is otherwise expected for you to get done what you need to get done. You as a citizen, you as a visitor, a tourist, an investor, local investor, local businessman, international business, all that. There's many different aspects of how this can work in many different examples. So in many countries, corruption, despite it being very pervasive and actually institutionalized in many cases, is still very taboo, not something that's often talked about. And even in a lecture like this, there are many sensitivities as to, well, what is corruption? And are you accusing me of being corrupt? And well, when you have an institutionalized corruption situation, this can threaten the very fabric of societies and the development of democracies and free markets when institutionalized corruption is so pervasive as it often is. Corruption, supply side and demand side both, very much increase transaction costs. So the cost of simply getting anything done, doing business for the commercial sector, the cost of you as a citizen simply going to pay your bills on time, or be able to go to the post office and get the package waiting for you, you find that there's a transaction cost. It costs you money to get those things done beyond what it should otherwise cost. And it undermines the competitiveness of the private sector in many parts of the world and overall globally in today's global economy. This is a drag overall on the world's economy. So waste of resources, I think that goes without saying. The amount of resources that are then channeled off and drained off into these darker areas. And corrupt countries lack predictable environments, economic environments, and good stable legal institutions, and good base for international investment or trade and growth. These tend to be countries, and there are many countries like this, which simply are not optimal for foreign investment, or any investment, even for their own private sector. And this is one reason we have to recognize why countries don't develop the way that they could or should with otherwise optimal conditions, because there's an overall drag in their economy of corruption, which is pervasive.